Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denise Gary Show. It's great to be with you again today, and I am just so very happy and honored that I have Major General Paul E. Vallely back on the broadcast today. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Denise. Happy to be back again.
We're thrilled, and ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know, this is a man that has served in the United States Army for many years. He was involved in special operations, and we all know what that means, for over 20 years. He's written a book, and I want to encourage everybody to get that book. Tell us the title of your book, sir.
Well, Joe McInerney, I wrote a book after we came out of Israel on a visit over there, an official visit with Mossad and the Israeli government and Bibi Netanyahu, 2004, and from the intelligence we received at that time regarding Syria, Iraq, Iran, and a number of the countries there, that we're encouraged to write a book called Endgame.
Love it.
And everything we basically said in that book in 2004 has come true.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, Endgame, Blueprint for Victory, for Winning the War on Terror. Check it out. Major General Paul Vallely. Sir, I want to talk about an article that's on your website, standupamericaus.org. Ladies and gentlemen, go to Major General Paul Vallely's website, standupamericaus.org. I was looking at this piece entitled The Joint U.S.-Mexican Border, the Security Zone to Secure America. And, I thought, I've got to get you back on the broadcast to talk about this. We just heard during the month of October, sir, we're getting a lot of static. It is okay. In October, we also, I think the American people saw on the news a Mexican mayor being dragged through the streets. And then we saw that El Chapo, Joaquin Guzman's son, that there was violence throughout an entire city in Mexico because they wanted El Chapo's son released from prison. And Major General, were you aware of the fact that this particular cartel had sent emails to the residents? I mean, think about this, Paul. You've got people in a city, and all these people have received emails from cartel members saying that there's going to be blood in the streets if El Chapo's son is not released from the jail. Now that's incredible, the amount of lawlessness that a cartel could take over a whole city and hold a city hostage. And I wanted to ask you, in this article that you wrote, it says here on page 2, it says that there is a need for the United States of America to adopt a more aggressive, offense-oriented border strategy. What does that look like? Paul, we're getting a lot of static. I don't know what you're doing, but please, what does a more aggressive, offense-oriented border strategy look like?
Well, in the military, in tactics or strategy, you have offensive operations and you have defensive operations. So in the first plan we sent to President Trump, in the plan you're reading now, we recommended that he put active duty forces on the border and start to create a strategy for offensive operations to take out the cartels. So President Trump fulfilled the first part of our recommendation. Now, before the Sinaloa incident last week from the Sinaloa cartel against the Mexican police, many dead, many wounded.
Yes.
We recommended that covert operations now be conducted against the cartels inside Mexico because they're a national threat to the United States.
Right.
So that's what we've recommended now based on good intelligence, because we can't depend on the Mexican government and the higher-ups to do what they need to do to terminate the activities of the cartels because of threats to their life, as we saw the Mexican police chief killed down there in Sinaloa, plus threats on their families. And so we're the only ones that can intercede and work covertly with the Mexican Marines, which are very efficient and very good soldiers, and their special operations forces. And we use drones, we use air power, but we basically take down all the cartels finally. So that's the next step we recommended to President Bush.
President Trump. Now, on these covert operations that you've recommended to President Trump, are these basically carried out by special operators? Is it for the most part special operators?
Correct.
Okay. And is this working in conjunction with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, or no? Correct. It is working in conjunction with the DEA? Okay.
Correct. Coordination along the border.
Okay.
Gathering intelligence, which the DEA is currently doing anyhow. We have intelligence operatives in Mexico as we speak. So they're gathering intelligence now. And we finally, with the intelligence picture, with satellites, with drones, etc., we can launch the predators and basically take out these cartel locations. And we must do it. It has to be done. They're just causing too much damage, not only in Mexico, but all the drugs, sex, human trafficking, children, and so on across our borders, and billions of dollars being made by the cartels and on the backs of the American people. So this is a national security threat, greater than the threat in Syria, greater than the threat in other areas of the world. This is our major threat now from our southern border.
Okay, and of course we need to secure that border. I've heard many people say, if we can't secure the United States border, why are we going to secure Syria's border? I mean, there's some good reasons why that border. Well, there's some good reasons why that border needs to be secured, and we'll get to that later. But our first priority needs to be our own borders. Sir, you also talked about how under the Obama administration, that there were very restrictive rules of engagement. So when you talk about these special operators and covert operations to secure our southern border against the drug cartels' violence and murder and mayhem, against human trafficking, etc., how do we unrestrict? What kinds of rules of engagement need to be less restrictive?
Well, first of all, President Trump's got rid of these ridiculous rules of engagement. They're already have been set aside.
Wonderful.
With the local commanders, for example, in Afghanistan, where we have other forces, that they will use whatever forces necessary in the mission of that particular unit. Well, the same thing would be for the cross-border operations to take out the cartels. The only restrictions would be they have to watch harming any innocent civilians and so on in these attacks. And so that would be the major restriction, that it be very surgical in nature and that we minimize any kind of collateral damage.
I'm curious, another point that you made in your article on page 3 talked about how these cartels and transnational criminals that are involved coming up from Mexico into the United States, you talked about how they've copied the jihadist. And, we've seen a number of beheadings over the years. Is that one of the crimes in which you believe these drug cartels have copied these jihadists?
It's probably the other way around.
Okay. All right. I was just curious because
about the cartels. Yeah. No, that's typical. Cutting off heads and complete. Destruction of the human body as they do. It's just horrible.
Yes. Okay. Well, I just wondered. It says here that these thugs and terrorists have copied jihad tactics of mayhem and murder, and I was just curious. Okay, so I do want to talk about, of course, Syria and that border situation. what I'm concerned about is we now have Russian forces that are now accompanying Turkish forces. My question to you, as somebody that's been involved in special operations for, as you said, 20 years, the fact that we have Russians working side by side with a NATO ally, Turkey, I find, deeply disturbing. And I talked to a former admiral that worked that was the director of operational plans for the supreme headquarters of NATO in Europe, and he said that there doesn't need to be a particular mechanism for President Trump and the United States of America and our allies to divorce themselves or divorce Turkey or kick Turkey out of NATO. I wanted, first of all, but I'd like you to speak to that. I mean, in light of Turkish activities invading another sovereign nation state, i.e. Turkey, to set up a safe zone, and the safe zone just happens to be in heavily populated Kurdish areas, which I think is by design. What do you believe, or do you believe that President Trump is hearing from any of his advisors with respect to pushing Turkey out of NATO?
No, that's not a priority for him right now. Turkey is a solid nation under NATO. They're playing both sides against the middle, right, between Russia and the United States. Russia's been very active in Syria for decades. Syria is a client state of Russia. So the Russians have been working there to also get rid of ISIS. They've been very involved in that. That's not broadcast enough of their involvement.
I understand.
So anyhow, I back the president. We don't need a few hundred people in there in harm's way, because I don't want to see one more body bag coming back from the Middle East.
I don't either, but my concern is, if we have Russian troops accompanying Turkish troops, would it not be better that we accompany Turkish troops? Because Turkey has already fired on a U.S. base inside Syria. So, I mean, as an American, I don't want to see American soldiers fighting a NATO ally on the ground in Syria. Of course, I'm with you 100%. But I'm concerned that Erdogan has made public statements to the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States and globally that he is looking to be the leader of the Ummah, the Muslim international community worldwide, and that it sounds like, based on all of his statements, that he wants to be the next caliphate. I mean, he wants to reestablish what Turkey under the Ottoman Empire once had, and that is a caliphate. So I know that this President Trump, has been tremendous in terms of being able to identify, it seems like, and understand the Islamic threat. I mean, after all, it was President Trump who was the first president that had the guts to initiate a moratorium of individuals coming from countries that were Muslim-dominant countries that had no embassy, no U.S. embassy, no way to work with the United States government to make sure that people coming from those countries were in fact civilians who had no harm intended against the United States. So, President Trump has really stood strong, but I'm wondering if...
What's your question?
Well, my question is, since it seems like Erdogan wants to reestablish himself as a Muslim leader, my concern is that he's going to expand his operations into Syria along with Russia, and I guess be a threat ultimately to the United States and our most important strategic ally there, Israel. That's my concern, and would you address that?
Well, you've got to understand also where Turkey's coming from on this. Yes, it's true, he's expanding the Islamic reach, and he does want to establish, as best we can, uh, the Ottoman Empire. That would probably be called another name.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
He's bought the missile system from Russia versus the United States. Right. The economy is very big in Turkey, so sanctions against Erdogan are there if President Trump wants to use it. I doubt very much if the Russians or the Turks want to engage and take out and harm any American troops. They know that would be devastating, and so I know that would not be their mission there. What they're trying to do is, with these several million refugees that Turkey has taken in, and I've been to the camps there in Turkey, in southern Turkey, in Hatay province, but the Turks took in, I don't know what the count would be, let's say 1.5 million, up to 2 million.
3 million. I read 3 million. They want to resettle 3 million. Okay.
Only the Turks know, because they count them in the refugee centers, but whatever it is.
Okay.
It's a lot of people.
Yes.
And Turkey would like to have those people go back and relocate in a peaceful area in that zone there of northeast Syria. That's one of his plans, and he wants to also take out the YPK and the manifesto communist type terror groups there that have been attacking Turkey for decades. There's been that fight there.
Right.
People have to realize there's 4 different populations of Kurds. Mm-hmm. You've got the million or so that actually live in southern Turkey. You've got the Kurds that are in Syria. Right. You've got Kurds that occupy the province of Iraq called Kurdistan, and then you have Kurds also in northern Iran.
Yes.
And so Erdogan's concern are the ones like PK and the others, PKK, that have operated on that border operation for decades, conducting attacks against Turkey. So that's where Erdogan's coming from. Well, Russia's sort of staying out of it now. They're on the sidelines, but they're there. Mm-hmm. And we're moving our troops into Iraq. Of the few hundred that we did have in Syria, they'll be moving into Iraq here in the next, have been, but moving more towards Iraq. And so we're not going to be in the way of the Turks or the Russians or the Kurds fighting that battle in that area.
Are you concerned that the Iraqi government has said that U.S. forces, more U.S. forces, are not welcome inside Iraq?
Some are. It depends who you talk to.
Okay.
We're there, Air Force, basically. The other thing is we have plenty of joint forces in the Middle East with our fleets in the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean. We've got operational forces in Jordan.
In Israel.
We've got forces in Iraq. We've got Adana Air Force Base with the capability in Turkey in Adana. So we have plenty of forces. We can hit any target, anytime, 24 hours a day if we want to.
Wonderful. I guess I'm concerned. I've been concerned. I've also been concerned about the 30,000 strong Turkish militias that are very much in the Islamist camp. And since this area, northeastern Syria, is mostly Kurdish, I mean, these are Kurdish people.
And Syrians.
And Syrians. And
the Kurdish, there are Syrians. They live in Syria. They're actually Kurdish citizens, or Syrian citizens.
Yeah, sure, but I'm saying that the fact that Erdogan chose an area which is heavily populated with Syrian Kurds, right. and I'm concerned about those 30,000 Turkish militias that don't have a problem committing atrocities. So I guess I absolutely stand with this president. He's been tremendous and just so in every area. But I guess I would like to see a no-fly zone or possibly some sanctions if Turkey doesn't get itself under control, because between the Turkish militias and their army, it seems like I guess I would like to just see the president get a little bit more aggressive with Erdogan, because I feel that he's taking advantage of the president's appreciation of Erdogan being part of the NATO alliance. And I guess that's my concern. And I'm wondering, sir, one other question before I let you go. I know that Insular military base... Incirlik military base in Turkey has been a help to the United States, although the Turks in 2003, if you recall, they wouldn't allow Bush to use it. But I understand that's considered, an important base of the U.S. there. But the United States, as you pointed out so well, we're all over the Middle East. We also have a base in Israel, don't we? We have at least one military. How many military?
We have a few under
we
Israel.
We have a few in Israel, sir. So
that part of Syria, it's not our fight.
I know.
It is of no national security interest to the United States whatsoever.
Why isn't it?
Their fight. That's their fight over there, not ours. And we're going to stop trying to fight these battles in the Middle East, which are not our business. It's up to them to solve their own problems.
Yes, sir. But in light of the fact that ISIS is still there,
a few hundred, they're no big threat. The Turks will take care of ISIS as well as the Kurds if they see them, and even Assad's forces will take care of ISIS.
But there are ISIS individuals that join those Turkish militias that are part of that 30,000 group of Turkish militias that fight and have already killed at least 14 civilians, Kurdish civilians, Syrian Kurds, whatever you want to call them.
Again, it's their battle, not ours.
Okay. All right, sir. I appreciate that. I understand that. And as a military general, I really appreciate your perspective. I don't want to see another single American killed in the Middle East either. What would you vote for, a no-fly zone, sir?
No, they're not going to have a no-fly zone over there because Syria won't abide by it.
Okay.
Turkey won't abide by it. Russia won't abide by it, and we won't abide by it if there's a threat. So it's one of those things that's not even worth the trouble to even propose. It's not going to happen.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know. I think I've pushed you pretty hard this interview.
That's okay.
Did you want to as I was telling you before we came on the broadcast, I was deeply concerned about how the Department of Justice is aware that the Obama administration knew that Al-Qaeda terrorists had planned attacks against Benghazi, against Americans in Benghazi. You mentioned 30 days in advance. There's documents that show that the Obama administration, which means Hillary Rodham Clinton, knew 10 days in advance. She lied in her testimony, so that means she committed perjury when she said, who knew what happened that night of Benghazi when 4 Americans killed? Because now this document indicates that the Obama administration knew at least 10 days ahead of time that there was going to be a terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda. Hillary Rodham Clinton says, who knew? It could have just been some guys walking down the street that decided to kill some Americans. She committed perjury, sir.
Yes.
Why isn't the DOJ investigating this?
Well, it's on the table there, and as I've told others, it's not an issue that they want to deal with right now. They're more concerned about the impeachment inquiry. They're more concerned about the Russian collusion. We have the Attorney General Barr and Durham that will be releasing those documents. There will be indictments coming out, probably against Comey, Brennan, and Clapper will be the first 3.
Do you believe these? Let me ask you something real quick. Do you believe these indictments are because they were complicit in hiring a foreign agent to spy on the President Trump when he was a candidate?
That's part of it, yes.
Okay, sir. Well, we've really put you through it today. I thank you for helping. I thank you for answering my questions. I really appreciate that as I try to understand things better and as the audience tries to understand things better too. So I really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. Well, I don't have all the answers, Denise, but I at least have my own positions I would take in advising our president what to do or not to do.
Yes, and we know that you do advise the president, and I want to thank you for all of your service to the United States, and you continue to serve the United States of America and our president. And we appreciate you, and we thank you for all your time and efforts.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
That.
You have a wonderful and blessed evening tonight. Thank you, sir.
Okay, my pleasure, Denise. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to tell you all about that wonderful advertiser we have, Frugatti's Restaurant. They're right there on Coffee Road. Please go to Frugatti's Restaurant. Give them the business. They're the best Italian restaurant anywhere in the Central Valley and Southern California. They're right there on Coffee Road between, as I've said in the past, Truxton Avenue and Stockdale Highway. Tell Ralph Frugaletti, the owner, how much you appreciate the fact that he, as the owner of Frugatti's Restaurant, continues to advertise on the Denise Gary Show. And let's listen in on Anatay's, on our Anatay's advertisement. That is such an important company right here in Kern County, in the Central Valley, here in California. They do so much work for our major defense contractors around the country. Let's play it, Isaac.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security. And in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Anatay's Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Anatay's Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Anatay's Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Anatay's Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one, putting a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anatay's Products. Anatay's Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Strata Launch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anatay's Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Anatay's Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anatay's Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today.
Ladies and gentlemen, on my Twitter account, I had said to somebody the other night, by the way, my Twitter account's name is what? For New Mid?
Denise Gary Show.
No. Is it really?
Uh-huh.
We change it to Denise Gary Show? Okay. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Denise Gary Show. Anyway, on Denise Gary Show, my Twitter account, I had said something to a Democrat about the president praying, and this individual responded back, well, I don't believe that at all. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This whitehouse.org, the cabinet room, Secretary Ben Carson, you know, the very prominent, actually famous surgeon and Dr. Ben Carson, Dr. Carson, Dr. Benjamin Carson. The president, you know, they open up with prayer at the cabinet meeting. And I didn't know if all of you knew that, but now you do. So they open up cabinet meetings in prayer. And the president said, it says, Ben, please do the honor. So Ben prayed, and this really touched me, his prayer. Ben Carson, Secretary Carson said, Our kind Father in heaven, we are so thankful for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us in this country, and we're thankful for the people of courage who have been here before us, who have fought hard for the rights of our country. He went on to say, and we thank you for President Donald Trump, who also exhibits great courage in face of constant criticism, and we ask that you would give him strength to endure and the wisdom to lead and to recognize you as the sovereigns of the universe with a solution to everything. And he continued his prayer. I thought it was a beautiful prayer. If you'd like to see this prayer, again, the President of the United States opens up his cabinet meetings in prayer. You can see it on the whitehouse.gov under briefings-statements, remarks President Trump cabinet meeting. And this is dated October 21st, 2019. If you'd like to read the opening prayer of the President of the United States, who invited Secretary Ben Carson to pray for the country. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Denice Scary Show. We need your contributions. Please make a tax-deductible contribution today. Send it to the Middle East Initiative, P.O. Box 82162, Bakersfield, California 93380. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.